Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is enjoying their day. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Will Victor's disdain for Kyle cause issues in his marriage? The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, hasn't been a fan of Claire Newman, Haley Aaron, with Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, from the get-go. Get updates on the latest news about the Young and the Restless, straight to your inbox. We use your personal data for interest-based advertising, as outlined in our privacy notice. What is this? He's let his voice be heard all along, which is fine, but the actions he's taken to split them apart have crossed a line. Could this cause issues for Victor's marriage? The mustaches deal with Audra Charles. The Young and the Restless spoilers remind fans that the mustache went to extreme lengths when he hired Audra Charles, Zuleika Silver, to seduce Kyle to break him and Claire up. Audra tried her best to do this while alone with Kyle and Nice at Kane Ashby's, Billy Flynn, summer party, but she failed. Kyle called her and Victor out on their deal and the seduction part of it, but since he's gotten back to Genoa City, he hasn't spent the beans. This is mostly because he found out Claire lost her father, Cole Howard, J. Eddie Peck, but once the dust settles, he may fill her in. With that said, he did mention it to Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, while still in France. Nikki and Victor are sure to rumble over this, so could Nikki draw a line in the sand thanks to this latest move from Victor? Could she decide to leave him? What is this? Nick Tor have been through worse. At the end of the day, Victor and Nikki will fight over this issue. Nikki is a fan of supporting Claire and not controlling your life, much like Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley. While Kyle may not be either Nikki's or Victoria's choice for Claire, they also want to encourage her to make her own decisions in life. After being raised by Jordan, Colleen Zenk, Vicky and Nikki want to show Claire what a real family is all about, and that means supporting one another. Still, it's highly doubtful that Victor and Nikki will break up over this latest issue, only because they've been through far worse in the past and managed to get through it. However, this doesn't mean that Kyle and Claire won't become a thorn in the side of their marriage and romance. Are you a fan of Claire? Comment below. Watch your favorite CBS soap daily and check out this site often for the best Young and the Restless spoilers, news, and updates. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Will Victor's disdain for Kyle cause issues in his marriage? Victor Newman is a man who rarely minces words or hides his true opinions when it comes to the people who orbit his family, especially those who dare to get close to his beloved granddaughter Summer Newman. For months now, Victor has been biting his tongue when it comes to Kyle Abbott, but that patience may be wearing thin. Behind closed doors, Victor has never truly accepted Kyle as a worthy partner for Summer, and the Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that this brewing tension may finally explode, threatening not only Kyle's position in the Newman orbit but also shaking the very foundation of his already fragile relationship with Summer. The question now is, can their marriage survive the wrath of Victor Newman? The Newman patriarch has always been protective of his family, but when it comes to Summer, his protectiveness borders on obsessive. Victor sees Summer as the crown jewel of the Newman legacy, a young woman destined to lead the next generation of the empire. Kyle, on the other hand, represents the legacy of the Abbotts, Newman rivals from way back. Even though there's been peace between the families on the surface, Victor's dislike for Jack Abbott still simmers beneath, and he's always viewed Kyle as a less-than-ideal suitor for his granddaughter. It's not just business. It's personal. And as Kyle continues to entangle himself with Audra Charles, someone Victor despises, things are about to spiral out of control. According to Inside Spoilers, Victor has been keeping tabs on Kyle ever since he moved back to Genoa City. He knows about Kyle's flirtation with Audra. He's aware of Kyle's loose allegiance to Diane and Jack. But what's most concerning to Victor is Kyle's apparent disinterest in prioritizing his marriage to Summer. He's been absent, distracted, and according to Victor, easily manipulated. That's not the kind of man who deserves to stand beside a Newman woman, let alone have access to the family's inner circle. In the upcoming weeks, Victor may finally decide to intervene, and when he does, the fallout could be catastrophic. Victor's disdain is no longer a quiet irritation, it's becoming a full-blown campaign. Word on the street is that Victor is about to start using his resources to expose Kyle's recent behavior. Whether it's leaked intel on Kyle's business decisions, gossip about his affair with Audra, or whispers about his lack of loyalty, Victor is preparing to dismantle Kyle from the inside out. And if he can make Kyle look weak or untrustworthy in Summer's eyes, all the better. Victor doesn't need to force a breakup. He just needs to plant enough doubt in Summer's mind to let her do the work for him. Summer, for her part, has been struggling with her own feelings. On one hand, she still loves Kyle, he's the father of her child and someone she's shared a deep emotional bond with. But on the other hand, she's tired of the roller coaster. Tired of wondering if Kyle is with her for the right reasons or if he's just using her Newman name as a stepping stone. And with her family constantly whispering in her ear, especially Victor, it's getting harder to ignore the signs. She's begun pulling away emotionally, questioning the future they once dreamed of. And that's exactly what Victor wants. But Kyle isn't backing down without a fight. The spoilers reveal that Kyle will soon confront Victor directly, a move that could either win Victor's respect or solidify his hatred. Kyle knows that if he wants to keep Summer, he has to prove himself not just to her but to the entire Newman family. He may try to convince Victor that he truly loves Summer and that his mistakes with Audra were just that, mistakes. But convincing Victor won't be easy, especially now that Victor has ammunition of his own. Things get even more complicated when Nikki steps in. Unlike Victor, Nikki has been more forgiving of Kyle's past. She sees the potential for reconciliation between Kyle and Summer and believes that keeping the family united should be the priority. Nikki's growing frustration with Victor's meddling could spark a power struggle between the couple, with Nikki pushing for peace and Victor pushing for separation. For the Newmans, family always comes first, but not everyone agrees on what that means. Meanwhile, Jack Abbott is preparing for battle. Once Jack hears rumblings that Victor is targeting his son, the Abbott patriarch is likely to strike back. Jack and Victor have had a long-standing rivalry, and this could reignite that feud in a big way. If Jack believes Victor is trying to sabotage Kyle's marriage, he won't sit idly by. He may confront Victor publicly or even threaten legal action if business interests are involved. The tension between the Abbotts and Newmans is heating up once again, and this time it's all about love, legacy, and loyalty. Behind the scenes, Audra Charles could play a key role in the unfolding drama. She's already proven herself to be a master manipulator, and her ties to Kyle could be the very thing that pushes Summer over the edge. If Victor gets Audra to turn on Kyle, or worse, exposes a new secret between them, Summer might walk away from her marriage for good. And Audra, ever the opportunist, may use the chaos to climb even higher in Newman media, especially if she aligns herself with Victor's agenda. Spoilers also hint at a potential truce, or betrayal, between Kyle and Adam Newman. If Kyle starts feeling boxed in by both the Abbotts and the Newmans, he may look for an ally in the most unlikely of places. Adam has always been the black sheep of the family, and he knows exactly what it's like to be at odds with Victor. If Adam and Kyle form an alliance, it could turn the entire power dynamic in Genoa City on its head. But trust between them would be precarious at best, and betrayal would be inevitable. The big question remains, can Kyle redeem himself before it's too late? He's made mistakes, plenty of them. But if he truly loves Summer and wants to be the man she deserves, he has to start proving it through action, not words. That might mean cutting ties with Audra for good, stepping up as a co-parent, and putting his personal ambitions aside for the sake of family. Otherwise, Victor's quiet war will become a very loud divorce. And what about Summer? She's no longer the naive girl who blindly followed her heart. She's matured, become a force of her own in the business world, and she's not going to tolerate betrayal, not from Kyle, and certainly not from her family. If she discovers that Victor is orchestrating a takedown of her husband behind her back, she may lash out. Victor underestimates her independence at his own risk. Summer may surprise everyone by defending Kyle, even if he doesn't deserve it, just to assert her autonomy from her controlling grandfather. As this emotional and political war unfolds, Genoa City is watching closely. With every whispered conversation, with every strategic move, alliances are shifting and tensions are boiling. It's not just a marriage on the line, it's a legacy. And Victor Newman is determined to protect that legacy, even if it means tearing apart his own family to do so. In the end, it may come down to one defining moment: Summer's choice. Will she stand by the man who has broken her trust but still holds her heart? Or will she heed the warnings of her powerful grandfather and walk away from Kyle forever? Either way, the young and the restless fans are in for a wild ride as Victor's disdain for Kyle reaches a dangerous peak. No one crosses Victor Newman without consequences, and Kyle may be about to learn that lesson the hard way. As Victor intensifies his quiet campaign to undermine Kyle, more Newman family members begin to take sides, turning what was once a private family concern into a full-blown civil war within Genoa City's elite. Summer finds herself caught between two immovable forces: the man she married and the grandfather who raised her like a daughter. Spoilers tease that Summer's internal battle is reaching a tipping point, and she may soon demand the truth from both men. No more half-truths. No more manipulation. She wants it all laid bare, no matter the cost. Victor, never one to shy away from confrontation, prepares for this moment like a seasoned general going to war. He believes he's doing what's best for Summer. In his mind, Kyle has proven himself unworthy, not just through his dalliances with Audra, but through his repeated failure to prioritize family. Victor's standards are high, and anyone who wants to marry into the Newman name must meet them, or be crushed under the weight of failure. He's even contemplating bringing Harrison into the fold, whispering into Summer's ear that the child deserves a more stable figure in his life, someone like Chance Chancellor or even Noah Newman, men Victor deems more respectable than Kyle. But Summer doesn't take well to being told what to do. Her heart is bruised, but it hasn't broken completely. She remembers the Kyle who fought for her, who stood by her during her toughest moments, who fathered her child and dreamed of a future with her. And part of her still wonders if that man exists beneath the recent mess. She decides to confront Kyle one-on-one, away from the noise, away from Victor's influence. The confrontation is raw and emotional. Summer demands answers about Audra. She wants transparency, and she wants it now. Kyle, realizing the magnitude of what's at stake, opens up in a way he hasn't in weeks. He confesses to being lost, to feeling like he's drowning in the expectations of both the Abbott and Newman dynasties. He admits that Audra was a distraction, a mistake born of insecurity and confusion, not love. He pleads for another chance, not just for his marriage but to become the man Summer once believed in. It's a heartfelt moment, but Summer remains cautious. Love isn't always enough, and the damage done may be more than words can fix. Meanwhile, Diane and Jack catch wind of Victor's involvement and rush to intervene. Diane warns Victor in no uncertain terms to stay away from her son's marriage. She accuses him of playing puppet master and risking the emotional stability of his own granddaughter just to settle an old score with Jack. Victor, ever composed, reminds her that he's simply protecting Summer, something Diane would do well to try with her own son. The tension is palpable, and the war of words between Diane and Victor threatens to spill into the business world as Newman Enterprises and Jabot prepare to clash once again. At the same time, Phyllis Summers, never one to stay silent for long, re-enters the picture with her own opinion on the matter. She's fiercely protective of Summer, and while she doesn't trust Victor's motives, she shares his concerns about Kyle. Phyllis and Victor form an uneasy alliance, agreeing on one thing: Summer deserves better. But Phyllis has her own agenda, and spoilers suggest she may try to manipulate the situation to her advantage, perhaps pushing Summer toward a reconciliation with someone new, someone she can trust. That idea alone could shatter what's left of Summer and Kyle's bond. Then comes the unexpected twist: Audra Charles isn't done. She's not content to be cast aside or blamed for the marital chaos. Audra wants power, and she knows how to use secrets as weapons. In a moment of vindictiveness or perhaps strategy, Audra leaks damning information about her affair with Kyle. Text messages, emails, hotel receipts, enough to not only destroy Kyle's credibility with Summer but also damage his standing at Jabot and Newman Media. The fallout is immediate. Jack is livid. Summer is devastated. And Victor? He smiles in the shadows, knowing that Audra has done what he hoped to accomplish without him lifting a finger. Summer retreats emotionally. She moves out of the shared home. She stops taking Kyle's calls. She focuses solely on Harrison and her work, building up walls that Kyle may never be able to tear down again. The damage is profound, and the idea of reconciliation starts to look like a distant fantasy. Meanwhile, Kyle finds himself not only alienated from his wife but also increasingly isolated in the business world. With both Jabot and Newman Media now viewing him as a liability, his future is uncertain. Victor, emboldened by the perceived victory, begins laying the groundwork for Summer's next chapter, one that doesn't include Kyle. He encourages her to consider expanding her role at Newman Enterprises, subtly suggesting she may thrive more fully without emotional distractions. He even begins introducing her to powerful figures in the business world, positioning her as the future of the company. Summer, though still hurting, is tempted. She begins to see a life where she's not defined by her relationship but by her own success. And yet, not all is lost. In a moment of surprising vulnerability, Kyle makes one final plea, not to Victor, not to Jack, but to Harrison. He sits with his son and explains everything in simple, heartfelt terms. He promises to do better. He promises to fight, not just for Summer but for their family. This moment is witnessed by Nikki, who happens to be visiting. She sees a different side of Kyle, a man who may still have some growing to do, but who hasn't given up. Nikki begins to question whether Victor's vendetta has gone too far. With Nikki now re-evaluating her stance, she approaches Summer and urges her to consider giving Kyle another chance, not for Victor, not for anyone else, but for herself. Nikki warns that love is rare, and forgiveness is powerful. Summer, torn between her heart and her pride, faces her most difficult decision yet. Spoilers hint at a potential reconciliation, but not before a major family meeting is called. Victor, learning of Nikki's intervention, attempts to shut it down. He calls a private Newman family summit, excluding Kyle and inviting only those loyal to him. But Summer crashes the meeting, boldly confronting her grandfather. She accuses him of meddling, of manipulating, and of prioritizing control over love. It's a dramatic moment that ends with Summer walking out, not just of the meeting, but possibly of Victor's inner circle. She's done letting him dictate her life. This rebellion stuns Victor. For the first time in years, he sees his granddaughter not as a pawn or a successor, but as a force of her own. Whether or not she chooses to reunite with Kyle, one thing is clear, she won't be controlled. The power dynamic within the Newmans begins to shift. And Victor, for all his might, must accept that he may have gone too far. In the weeks to follow, Genoa City will be rocked by the ripple effects of this internal war. Kyle's future hangs in the balance. Summer's independence takes center stage. And Victor Newman, the man who thought he could bend love to his will, may finally have to reckon with the limits of his influence. But if there's one thing fans know for sure, it's that Victor never stays down for long. He may have lost this battle, but the war is far from over. Stay tuned.